Okay, so
Yeah, I think we've known each other since 2012.
yeah, 2012.
Yeah.
2012. Time is flying. So Sheila reached out to me, asked if she could support in any way. Just really excited about this opportunity, helping you guys with your business and serving you guys. And I know there's a lot of moving parts here, and we got to prioritize some of this stuff. And when I started looking at funnels and what I was building before I went to Mexico, obviously you guys knew I took 60, 90 days off. I was still somewhat coaching and stuff like that. And when I went to Mexico and I told this story to the leadership team, I was just shocked by the simple process that people were putting others through to introduce them to eXp, whether it was, the curiosity of the webinar, getting them on it, then getting them on a three-way call with your sponsor or somebody that understood the model better than we did or you will at that particular time. And once I came back and leveraged that, you guys know my numbers, what I did in a month, what I did in 2 months. It's realistic that this group, the Just Do It movement, I appreciate all your guys' help and support. We'll probably hit 90 agents in 90 days and be in 2 different countries and maybe around 14 to 16 different states. And I did work on a few funnels that I got, and I helped Tierney launch, and we can cover those. And I'm open to building some other funnels, but I'd like to really focus on the simplicity of what got me where I'm at, what got Sheila where she was at. And I will tell you, Sheila has an amazing story, and she is a giving person, and she's also doing a lot of volume in terms of impacting other people's lives and changing their lives with eXp. And I don't know how long she's been doing it, maybe over a year or right under 2 years. I can't remember the time frame. But she was right at her revenue sharing check, I think was $75,000 for the month, right? I think that's what I saw. So realistic, I don't even know if the month was over. I mean, that was just crazy. But when I asked her kind of what she was doing and her process is, she's out of the Denver or out of the Dallas area, not Washington, which is what I was thinking. She was just there helping some other teams or whatever when she had called and welcomed me. But she's out of Dallas and she has a pretty clean process. So I'm going to turn it over to her and have her explain how she's running Lunch and Learns, and hopefully we can glean some nuggets from her. You guys can maybe get her cell phone number. You guys have access to her. You're in her on her revenue team. And I just thought it'd be a good chance for her to introduce herself in the process of the Lunch and Learns and the grassroots movement of how we're going to influence people at the local level. Well, Sheila, it's all yours.
Thank you, Adam, so much. And I'm so excited to be here with you guys. And yes, I'm absolutely here for you. My cell phone, just so you know, is 972-984-0429. So 972-984-0429. If you ever want to get a hold of me, text me, and I'll be happy to help you guys. For any of you who are here in the Dallas Metroplex, I would love to hook up with you. I do a Lunch and Learn on Fridays, and I do it for anyone in my team. So I'll present, or Cliff Freeman will present, or any of you, I'm sure would be raised up to be able to present as well, and we work together on this. But basically, it is a simple process. So with the Lunch and Learns, what you want to do is you want to find a location that you can be stable at. That's the most important thing, is to find a really good location in your city that is central. I don't know I don't know what all that noise is with. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, let me mute. Yeah, let me mute everybody. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I just want to make sure people can hear this. Okay. So basically, the way the Lunch and Learns go is we have a location that's central in Plano, which is kind of the center city for our North Dallas area. And the key is to have a location that you can have at the same time, same place every week, so that way it builds upon itself. And it's going to start out small. It may be you and a few other people on your team to start with, but you just got to keep it up. And then basically what you do is you get a mortgage company, a title company, a vendor services companies like home warranty people or whatever, and you create a calendar of sponsorships. And then every week you have a different company come in to run the lunch part of the sponsorship. And so we started at 11:30, and from 11:30 to 12 is a luncheon part where the sponsors get to come in, they get to talk about themselves, they get to, people sit and eat lunch. And then at noon, the eXp presentation starts. And then basically from noon to 1, we give ourselves so that way we make sure we've had a chance to do the presentation, have a chance to answer any questions, mingle a little bit before we have to exit the room. Because normally we're doing the meetings in a Jaeger office suites or a Regis office suites, or some place that you basically get the room for an hour and a half or 2 hours maximum. The other way of doing it, and this week we're actually starting the first time to do this, and Brent had done this once, where you hook up with a mortgage company or someone doing some kind of training seminar, and we're doing like a lead gen system where you can bring someone in, and while they're eating lunch, they can do a presentation on the lead gen system. And then at the end of that presentation, you roll into the eXp presentation right after. But it gives you the ability to do another draw for people, because if you think about how you're going to invite people, the company doesn't look kindly on us posting things out on Facebook or out on the internet about eXp. They don't want us to basically spam or blast or whatever out onto Facebook about it. But if you blast out that you're doing a training class on lead gen and you're inviting everybody to a lunch class, and then they come and listen to the class, and then at the end you say, hey, if you guys want to stick around, you're welcome to hear about eXp. That's another spin on it that you can do that we're going to try this week, and we know that Brent's tried that too. So two different ways we've seen it done, but predominantly the key is the consistency. Even if you don't have anyone show up, the key is to go ahead and do it. Go ahead and practice your presentation, practice with each other, talk through who else you can invite, help build your team up, encourage your team to bring people. But the key is the consistency. And I've been here about 1.5 years now. And over the 1.5 years I've been here, when I started with Rob, we had, literally just a handful of people that we started with. And it's grown to where the room is packed. There's usually 50 people every meeting. Sometimes people can't even fit in the room. And so that is a key that Rob likes, is he likes to make sure that it's so packed that it's standing room only, and that you basically can't fit. So when you're looking at a room size, it needs to be a room size that can comfortably fit maybe 20 or 30, but does not comfortably fit 40 to 50. So that way your goal is to fill it to where you are standing room only. And then you can either add another day, or you could add a back-to-back meeting if you wanted to do multiple locations. So what we've done is we've set it up to where we're doing multiple locations around the city, to where we have, one meeting in Fort Worth, we have one meeting in Flower Mound, we have one meeting in Dallas, and then we have one meeting in Plano. And then that way it gives the ability for you to target people in your area where you're trying to attract people from, if you're targeting a certain area. As far as the lunch sponsors, it's whoever you feel comfortable with. For a long time, we had one mortgage lender that actually sponsored lunch every week, because he wound up getting his wife licensed. And so he wound up doing the lunch sponsorship every week for probably, 6 months to a year. And then we started bringing in other companies. But I rented a facility so that I can make sure I have the same place every week to have people come, so that I don't have to worry about having a mortgage company's building or having a title company's building where I can't bring in other vendors. I like being able to have the ability to have control, that I can bring in whoever I want. And that opens the door that as you start adding other agents to your team, then you can say, hey, what lenders do you use, or what title companies do you use? And can we put them on the schedule for lunch sponsorships? And it just makes it easier for you as you add people to your team. But that's in a nutshell how we do the Lunch and Learns. Adam, do you or anyone have questions about how we do that?
Yeah. Let's unpack this. This is actually really good. So let's just kind of recap what she said right there, guys. Obviously, there's a lot of good information right there. And then I want to talk about concerns, tracking, some of the things we covered, even, together with the leaders and touch on that. But I like the stability. Find a stable location. She's using Regis space, it sounds like, and then you're just catering food into there.
Yeah, I use, there's a place here called Jaeger Properties. Regis is the same thing as Jaeger, but I wound up getting a little office that when I rented a 10 by 10 office, it included 20 hours of conference room time. So
okay,
for $450 a month, I get 20 hours of conference room time, which is all I need. And that's cheaper than renting a room per week.
So you spend $450 to get 20 hours a block a month, and you're making $75,000 profit a month. Seems like a good investment to me, to get this grassroots movement going. I like the consistency. Let's talk about that. So I met Jeff Whitespear, I believe is his name, in Mexico. And I think he's got hundreds of people in his downline and his revenue share. And I asked him, hey, what funnels do you have? What special systems are you using? He's like, you want me to be honest with you? He's like, I'm doing it off Lunch and Learns. And I said, really? And he's like, I'm like, it's just that simple. And he's like, yeah, man, when I started running them, nobody was showing up, or just a couple agents would show up. He's like, but I did it 1 week or 1 day a month or 1 day a week. And I was consistent on that time and that day of the week, month in and month out. And then, we'd have lunch by ourselves if nobody showed up. But then if a couple agents showed up, we still presented like there's 100 people. And then, the next month, maybe 5 was coming each week. And then he said it compounded. And I think I checked on him just last week, said, hey, how many people was at your Lunch and Learn? He said he had like 36 people. And that's how he's growing the grassroots of movement with that. And before I unpackage and unbox some of these other questions that I have, how do you get people to a Lunch and Learn? How do you target them? And then what's the message in terms of invite somebody to a Lunch and Learn?
So we're using, you can do really whatever system you have. You don't have to go out and buy a special system. If you don't have anything, we use Evite. It's free. And basically we create an Evite invitation, and then you put people's email addresses in there. And then that way you can just copy and paste every week the same email invite. And it's an invite that goes out. They can say yes or no, they're coming. And then the agents that are in there that are already in your downline, they can then send that out to people and invite people and add people to the list. So it just keeps growing every week. A lot of people do it when it's one-on-one, that you're just inviting the people that you're reaching out to, and your agents are inviting the people that they're reaching out to. Okay.
So Evite, and it's a free, it sounds like a free like emailing type of service that would kind of look like, gosh, what's that company's name when you create, it's actually what we went through to buy our shareholders event in April. Gosh, what's that company's? But let's check out Evite. So then you can add email addresses and agents there. So if you add one person that's potentially interested into coming to a Lunch and Learn, we get their email address from them. They're interested. They say yes. So it's not spam. They're giving us permission-based communication. So it's not spam. But then it's going to keep emailing them for every Lunch and Learn until they decide to opt out. Because I'm sure there's an opt-out button where they can no longer receive. Okay, cool. So it stays within that, and then it's just copy and paste, and then you're adding to that email list, and that's how it's building and compounding. Whether your team, your guys' team, your line, and all that stuff. Now, when I was speaking to a couple other people that are maybe in the same area, yeah, we're in the same line, but we know, people respect the person from the front of the room, right? The person talking, the person presenting is seen as the expert, the authoritative person. How, Sheila, if people are to maybe, I'll just put this out there. Let's say, Tierney, they're running their own stuff, but how do you bring the fires together? Like we got Cliff presenting one day, you presenting one day. Maybe we can work Tierney and Walsh into some presentations in that area, because we know that there's power in numbers. Versus 8 people in a room, I think that's how many people Walsh have in a room right now versus, 30 people and then another 10 standing. So it really, really feels like there's something important going on at that meeting. Like, how do you stop somebody from, maybe wanting to sign up with X person, but they see Y, which would be you, from the front of the room, and then wanting to sign up with you or Cliff or whoever's in front of the room that day. I think he shared some good tracking of how agents sign in and the list and how you take a picture and distribute that out, whether the agents come to that or not, or they want to present and be a leader in front of the room. Help me understand what that looks like in terms of keeping the ethics correct.
Well, we have an agreement with everybody that comes to our Lunch and Learn. And obviously anybody that would come from your group would be in my group. So you're in my downline, so I want to make sure I protect you. So what we do is we have agreements. If you come or if you don't come, we have a sign-in sheet. So when people come in the room, they put their name and then they put who their sponsor is or who invited them to the Lunch and Learn. And then we take a snapshot of the sheets that people sign and we text it out to the people in our group so that they know who came that they invited, even if they're not there. That way we can protect people and we can make sure we honor each other. And then I'll even say from the front of the room, talk to whoever brought you. And we're constantly pushing people back to whoever brought them to make sure that we're talking to them. But I'm here to help everybody recruit. So I'm happy to talk to people for you and then just say, you just need to call Tierney or you need to call Adam. But I'm happy to answer questions, but they're your sponsor. They're the ones you would put down.
Okay. So I love it. So consistency, and then being able to potentially, work with your team, work with everybody through the Invite, and I'll look that up. Start to build a list within that where you can copy and paste every week. So the list keeps growing and the compound effect and the force multiplier sets in. And, they might see an invite 3 or 4 times before they're like, freaking, I'm going to go. You know what I mean? And then once they, then, go ahead.
They're seeing stuff online. So you may be sending them the invite, but they're seeing all these Facebook posts about the $100 million this and the $100 million that. And finally they're like, man, we got to go check this out.
Right. Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. Just like right now, there's a live going on with Britton Jennings, the #1 Silicon Valley agent. I think another 100 million. He's doing over 100 million. He just came out right now, and they're streaming on Facebook. I mean, the movement is now, but maybe they might not have relations or connections or relations with you, and it might be that's just enough like social proof for them to be like, I'm gonna go like this week. And then if you don't show up to that Lunch and Learn, I like how Sheila has the sign-in sheet. She wants to protect who sent them there. And so it's like, who sent you? Sign in, everybody signs in, and then they document it through pictures. And then everybody that is in that revenue line, which all of you guys are in Sheila's and vice versa, you'll know. Then you send out a picture so, they can start to see who showed up, who showed up that week. And if they see their name or somebody that they invited, maybe they've been working on this person for months, they know to follow back up with that person. What did you think of the information that you heard? And then you can start, picking that relationship up, at that time. So I love it.
Adam, the
okay.
other thing that I use with Brent that I don't know if you guys had ever heard this or not, but once I've talked to someone, I really encourage them while I'm with them to fill out the join doc. So what I'll say to someone is, why don't we go ahead? This is a 1-page sheet. Let's get this filled out. This does not sign you up. What this does is it gives you more information so you can do your due diligence. So what will happen is you'll get more information about the company sent to you so you can do the independent contractor agreement, make sure you feel good about everything, and then they're in the system under you.
Right. I love it. We'll keep it moving here. I know your time is valuable. I just want to make sure we unpack this and we're all clear. The next thing is I like how, you guys have the flexibility with the vendor services, because when we start out, it's like, yeah, I'm going to bring in my lender, my title people. They're going to invest the money to help with the lunches or to pay for the service. And we're all going to, influence these people to use us and start to build the relationship. But she hit the nail on the head. the compound effect is going to happen as your network starts to grow outside of your team. And outside in the network, they're going to have other co-marketing relationships in place. And so I like the rotating calendar of where you can flex different sponsors in with lending and title. And so the money burden isn't all on that one person, but more importantly, you can placate into the other people in your network and make them feel appreciated with their relationships, what they're bringing to the table, and all of that stuff. And so creating that flex vendor service spots for the Lunch and Learns, I think is powerful. And I think, I would leave flex spots open. And so now we got people in, we have the vendors. I like how you don't want to get a big room because you want about, a room for 20 or 30 people, but then you also want people standing. So it creates that synergy and that excitement, and there's power in numbers, and the smaller the space, I kind of like that. I really wouldn't have never thought of that, but that makes sense. Like if I have a room that fits 50 people and there's 30 people in there, it doesn't feel as powerful as a room that fits 20 and 10 are standing and you're shoulder to shoulder, right? I like that. And so you're getting the room for hopefully about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, because it sounds like you're having everybody grab food. Everybody's kind of, chit-chatting with each other, maybe bumping into other people that they may or may not know, and then 30 minutes to eat, and then you get into the presentation. Okay. Now, when we get into the presentation, are we playing a video at this time? And would you recommend them playing a video at the time if they're not fully explosive with all of the details and how to articulate it? But you guys are presenting, I'm assuming, obviously being leaders and doing the type of numbers that you're doing. But do you present different than Cliff or vice versa, or are you guys using the same slides every time, same outline, so there's consistency in the message? Like if we work Tierney into your group or whatever, if there's a way to make that work, like everybody's using the same stuff, same tracking, same everything. So have lunch, eat eaten first, and then you present. And then do you answer questions one off, or do you answer questions in front of the group? How does like the closing statement, or do you send them back to their sponsor to answer questions after you deliver the presentation, or what does like the end wrap up look like?
Well, normally
this is important.
Well, I actually had a rev share thing made for me, and I know everybody else doesn't have this, but I have it. And so I actually do the rev share calculator, and then
this group has one.
Okay, so yeah, so I know a lot of us.
Yeah, we got one.
So we do the rev share calculator, and then I let them know to talk with their sponsor, but then I let them know that we'll hang out to answer questions one-on-one. We don't necessarily open up with the group all the time unless it's just a few people, only because what we learned through what we were doing with Rob and when we were doing big meetings like this with hundreds of people is sometimes people will say things that can actually deter someone else. So we want to keep the conversations private with what that person's dealing with to help them come over.
Okay. Exactly. I mean, that's why when I'm onboarding teams, that was one of the first things Brent taught me. He's like, I know a lot of teams are attracted to you, and I'm like normally used to presenting in front of the group, and what I say goes, and that's how we're going to roll. And so Brent's like, you need to have everybody meet their people one-on-one, watch the webinar, address each concern so you can isolate, for lack of better terms, I guess, negative Nancy's or the naysayers, if you will, so they don't influence the people that's excited. And then once you get commitments from everyone, or not commitments, then you have a full team excitement meeting with the people that's committed. So you guys are using that same type of technique in a larger scale on the Lunch and Learns, and it sounds like. So I like that. So you're not taking questions. You will meet one-on-one afterwards, directing them back to the sponsor, documentation with a sign-in sheet, who sent them there, getting that information back out to everybody, whether the agent signed up or not. So hopefully they can follow up with them and have that genuine, authentic one-on-one to deal with the positives or the negatives, whichever it may be. Okay. I like it. Good stuff. So I like Brent stuff. Like when I roll out in Wichita, I'm known as a lead gen marketing guy here, and it's been, I'm kind of like been the wizard behind the curtain. I'm not wasn't involved with, I did do fundraisers and show up to other stuff, but I haven't been selling real estate in about 4 years. I've been running the CEO model, expansion partners and stuff like that. And I think the value to also pull people in that maybe just aren't, specifically interested in eXp. Tierney and I talk about this all the time. This is all about value, and we lead with education and teaching others, and then just kind of plugging the opportunity at the end. All these people on this call and some of the other people that couldn't get here, they're here because they've seen me get big results, and I give, a lot of free stuff in the inside sales group, and I lead with education. And they've been attracted to me through that, and then the opportunity comes naturally. And so what she was talking about on the lead gen systems and the value side, you run like conversion meetings, or like Tierney ran a panel that was focused on listings and mindset and a few other things with 300 people in the room. And then, she talked about her network at the end, and she got like 50, 60 people to sign up that was interested in her network. And so the philosophy here, guys, is like, let's lead with, inviting people. And it's not like a bait and switch. It's really pitched like, we're going to cover how to use, CRMs, or how to use Facebook marketing, or, processes, or conversion strategies, or word track. And you really teach on that, and you give a lot of value, and you impact their lives by that. But then you give everybody a chance, like, hey, the meeting's over. However, I'm going to hang around because a lot of you guys know why I'm with eXp, and I'd be doing you probably a disservice if I didn't stay around and, answer questions about a company that is disrupting the industry and is the future. And so if you want to leave, feel free to leave. But if you want to hang around and learn more about eXp, I'm going to cover some of the basics with that. And then you kind of, take a couple minute break or whatever. And then, you might have a few people leave, but a majority is going to hang around because this is the hottest topic in America right now. And especially maybe, if you could even, get, some of the other people like myself or Sheila or whoever to maybe help out with that second part, I think it would be, powerful. I think Brent told me in Mexico, he just did that, and he had like 35 people show up to a lead gen strategy meeting, like 35 people. And then he took a couple minute break, told them, you're free to leave, that this session is over, ran that for an hour, and then picked up with eXp. He said he didn't lose one single person. 35 people stayed around to hear about eXp. And so there's another way to run it if you're not just going to market for strategic lunch and learns and consistently be pitching that, because, Ryan Davis is on here, doing 200 units. He hit me up for ISA services. He was wanting some ISA coaching, wanted to get some systems in place. And I told him, look, brother, I'm not really taking coaching clients right now. I have about 30% of coaching clients left, and I might pick up some in the future, but I'd love to help you. And I spent 2 days breaking down his business one-on-one and spending time with him, just helping that get in alignment. And then I brought up the opportunity to be able to work with me. And if you worked with me, or if you was able to get in alignment and get in business with me, then we, then we can work on this stuff together and on one team. And so then I sent him the webinar, didn't get into the details. He watched it with his father. He's like, man, I don't know if my father's, 100%. And I kept working with him on the financials and the math, and, kept adding value. And then next thing I know, a week later, he joined, and that all just happened in the last month. And so consistently putting good education out there and techniques and best practices is going to attract like-minded people. I mean, if you ask Ryan, he's like, this was, exactly what I needed in my life. You're the mentor I needed. This is the information I needed. I was talking to him yesterday. He's like, man, you're just in the couple of weeks of working with you, you've opened my eyes up, so much. And that didn't come from me hitting him up with eXp. That had to do with me putting good conversion strategies, ISA stuff out, and it attracted somebody that needed help. And then I was able to help them, but then also cast a larger vision with what we got going on with the Just Do It network. And then it just made sense for him to flip in business. And I know I was working with Daniel on this and showing him how to shoot videos and give value and stuff like that. And so I think that that's awesome, Sheila. I like that. Hopefully you guys can take away some nuggets from that. Let's see here. I think we kind of unpackaged the Lunch and Learns pretty good. Do you have your sponsors present at all, or they just bring their banners in, they pitch in with the food, shake hands, have small talk one-on-one, or are they presenting at all or talking or any of that stuff?
It depends on if we're doing one of the ones where they're doing like a lead gen presentation, but usually I'll let them do a quick intro, give them a package, you know, a little couple.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
if they're doing an actual presentation, then obviously they're getting like 30 minutes or a portion while the people are eating to present. You know,
yeah. Okay. And you're running meetings with 100, 150 people in them right now, grassroots level, just consistently adding email addresses to the Invite free software, copy and pasting every week, building that list out, and that's how you guys got this grassroots movement going on, and obviously it's going to compound itself as you add more agents to your team and your network and in your area. And Dallas is exploding right now. There's no question about it. Tierney and Walsh are on fire. I'm happy to be aligned with them. And I mean, they're changing the game. You're obviously on fire. Texas is on fire. The nation is blowing up with this stuff. And I think if we start running these grassroots lunch and learns, it's going to be slow at first, but consistency is going to pay off. And then having your team show up and really be involved with that and everybody committed to that, it's going to pay off in the long run. So this strategy is set up for the long game, and it's going to feel like you are wasting your time in the early stages, just like the Jeff White Spear. He'd been doing it a little over a year. He had hundreds of people in his network. He presented in Mexico, and he's built it purely off just focusing on building his network one day a week and doing it through these lunch and learns, no fancy funnels, not paying for ads, not spamming, not trying to, reinvent the wheel, just started there. And then it's just compounded itself into great things for him. I think his revenue share check was around 25,000, I believe, when I saw it in Mexico, around a year with him. And he's like, man, I don't work it that hard, one day a week. I have all my systems set up. And now it makes sense with the Invite, so you're not having to manage all those email addresses or go try to find new people to come every week. You're communicating the same message consistently week in and week out. And then when the timing is right for them, they're going to show up. The tracking is in place. I love it. Guys, I know I've asked her a lot of questions that, made sense for me to ask, like, what blind spot am I missing? What questions do you guys have? I'm going to open it up, let you guys ask some questions to Sheila. Probably got her for another 15 minutes here. I only asked for about an hour per time, 10 or 15 minutes here, guys. But if you want to ask her a question, go ahead, unmute yourself, and she'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hey, Sheila, did you say that you were showing a video at the Lunch and Learn, or what were you doing specifically? I missed some of that.
We're doing live presentations. So one of the things you can do if you're newer and you haven't mastered the presentation is you can use one of the pre-recorded webinars. I know Brent and James had sent Adam a list of webinars me, him, Rob, Marguerite have done. Until you feel comfortable hearing it enough. Honestly, after you've heard it about 8 or 10 times, you'll be like dreaming about it. And you'll pretty much know how to answer. The other thing you can do, depending on where you're located in the country and what your situation is with Adam, what we did for Brent when we first started is Brent would actually log us in on the big screen from his computer, and we would do the presentation from Texas live for him in California. And then that way, because at first he just didn't feel comfortable doing it himself. So it didn't take very long for him, though, to get up and running from there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have some more presentations to send you guys. I sent Tierney one updated one. I got a couple other ones on file, also with some scripting to get people on the webinar, not so much the Lunch and Learn, but Yeah, I think that's powerful. If you guys are going to be able to run lunch and learns, to get somebody like myself or somebody, you think that's a good fit, that's in our rev line, to help, present and build that excitement for you until you can master it and you're comfortable demonstrating that leadership from the front of the room.
And Adam, are people all over the country, or are they predominantly in a certain area?
Like I said, I got Texas on here right now, Alabama, North Carolina. I mean, we got South Carolina, we have Tennessee. I mean, there's a guy, I don't know if he jumped on today, Canada. I have right now probably 10 different areas in the system, and by the end of April, it'll be 14 different areas.
Okay, so for you guys, Adam is like the king. He is unbelievable. He's super highly respected, and I would leverage him if it were me. So what I did when I first started was I used Rob a lot. And so I didn't talk about my success, I talked about Rob's success. And so what I would do is set it up to where you blast it out to your whole database that you have one of the #1 in the country, that you're a mentor, and that he's going to be doing a training session and a lunch and learn for them. And I would set it up to where Adam is the one doing a small bit on training them. And then he goes into the eXp presentation while they're eating lunch. And then that way Adam could do the presentation for you, and you're leveraging how big he is and how successful he is if you're not in that spot and feel comfortable doing it. Because that's what I did with Rob. That's what we did for Brent. And until you get your feet up and running and have your own success and feel like you've got enough on the table that you can say, hey, I've got this, and comfortable doing it on your own. That's what Adam's talking about, that we're here for you.
All right. I love it. Now that social proof goes a long ways. I mean, when I look at how Tierney and Walsh are getting people synced in as well. I mean, obviously Tierney coached me for a while, off and on, but when I go to sell myself, it's, I'm trying to focus on them and being their guide and the value. But the way Tierney sells me is like through third-party testimonial and being able to have access to me. And she's like, I made the move to be able to get in business with a guy that was selling 1,000 homes a year. I've known him for a while, expansion teams. And so she's selling me, and it makes it easier. And then when I get on the phone or dinners with them, they're like, wow, he's just a young, normal guy and fiery. And then I can validate those results. And then we're all selling each other. And Tierney and I actually just talked about that at a recruiting meeting the other day, and they have that mastered, how they're selling me, her and her husband. I mean, they make me feel better than what I am, but it's actually how we're pulling people in. And if you ever get to know her husband, Walsh, I mean, he makes you feel special, and he definitely knows how to sell other people, and they got it down. And so don't try to sell your results or overcomplicate it, sell other people's results. So when I'm talking to people, yeah, here's why I moved and here's what I left on the table. But I like selling Gene and, territory and, market centers for 200,000. I like selling Tierney. I like, most of the people, if you got in business with me, you've heard me talk a lot about Tierney. I'm talking a lot about Matt and Clarence and what they have going on. And it's just that third party validation. So I love it. Good question, Marv. Any other questions, guys? We good? All right, Sheila. Well, I appreciate your time. I feel like you brought some clarity to this process. I know, like, running a lunch and learn could just seem as simple as getting some food and getting an agent or two to meet you there for it. But there's definitely a system. There's definitely some strategy here. There's definitely a consistency of a database and ongoing syndication of Invite. There's tracking. There's a method to the madness with the flexing of the vendors. There's strategy with having a smaller room to try to get more people in that room to entice standing room to create that power in numbers. I like that. I mean, I like it. I think you gave us a lot of good nuggets. Everybody give Sheila a round of applause, guys. I think that was awesome.
Bye.
Thanks,
All right,
Sheila.
Sheila.
Bye-bye.
All right, Sheila. All right, cool. All right, guys. I'm gonna hit stop recording here so I can catch up with you guys for a few minutes. That was pretty awesome, though.